Ancient theories of origin of life. First is theory of spatial creations. The theory of spatial creation is proposed by Father Isurage. He said that life on earth is created by a supernatural power, the God. According to the Christian belief, Bible, God has created universe, plants, animals, humans in 6 natural days. First day, earth and heaven was created. The second day, sky and water was created. Third day, and plants were created. Fourth day, sun, moon, and stars were created. Fifth day, fishes and birds were created. And last, sixth day, humans and different types of animals were created. According to Hindu mythology, from different body parts of the Brahmaji, universe was created. From his head, devil, humans, and God were created. From chest, birds were created. From mouth, goats were created. And from his hairs, different types of animals and plants were created. Similar beliefs were also proposed by all other religions. The beliefs were first, all living organisms were created same day, means no difference in their appearance. Second, they were created in the present form, there was no evolution. Third, their bodies and organs are fully developed to meet the requirement of their life, means there was no adaptation. There were three objections to the theory of spatial creation. First, it was purely based on religious belief. Second, there was no experimental evidence to support these assumptions. And the third is the age of different fossils proves that living organisms appear on Earth in different time frames. Scientists were unable to prove it scientifically. That's why the theory of spatial creation was disapproved. And the theory that came in contradiction to the theory of spatial creation was the theory of spontaneous generation. Theory of spontaneous generation, also known as theory of abiogenesis or autogenesis. A means not, biogenesis means life form. That means life is originated from non-living things according to this theory in spontaneous manner. There were several observations supporting this theory. Some of them are: fly larva develops on rotten meat. In ancient Egypt, it was believed that frog, snake, crocodile was originated from the mud of Nile River warmed with sun. Van Helmont in 1642 done an experiment and claimed that he can produce mice from the dirty shirt and handful wheat grains kept in dark cupboard in 3 weeks or in 21 days. The theory of spontaneous generation was criticized by Lazzaro Spallanzani, Francisco Redi, and Louis Pasteur. These great scientists performed well-designed scientific experiments to disprove the theory of spontaneous generation, that is abiogenesis. Then comes the theory of biogenesis. Francisco Redi, an Italian scientist, in 1668 has done an well-designed experiment to disprove the theory of spontaneous generation. He placed the piece of meat and fishes in three separate jars. In first jar was left open, second jar was covered with gauze, and the third jar was packed tightly. After some days, he observed that the piece of meat fishes start decaying in all the three jars. Observation was in first jar, which was kept open, flies entered and laid eggs, which gave birth to new larvae. Whereas the second jar, which was covered with gauze, in that the flies were sitting on the gauze and eggs were produced above the gauze, but were unable to enter the jar. In the third jar, which was tightly packed, the flies were not able to enter the jar. This experiment proves that organism arises from the pre-existing organism. John Needham has done an experiment in 1745 with boiled broths. He prepared a broth by mixing plant and animal matter and boiled it in a belief that it would kill all the microorganisms. He sealed the broth with the cork and left it for few days. After that, he observed that the broth had become cloudy and it has an microorganism in it. He said the spontaneous generation theory was true, and many another scientists also believe that. But the reality was that the broth was not boiled so much that all the microorganisms would have been killed. Lazzaro Splenzo has redesigned the John Needham experiment in well design, and he disproved the theory of spontaneous generation. In his experiment, he prepared the broth by boiling animal and vegetable. He boiled the broth for several hours and kept one jar sealed and left the other open to the air. After some days, he observed that the sealed jar was clear. There was no microorganism growth in it, whereas the jar which was opened has the microorganisms growth in it. He concluded that air was the force that was introducing microbes into the flask. He also concluded that high temperature boiling had killed all microorganisms in the sealed jar. He disproved the theory of spontaneous generation and said that life comes from the pre-existing cell. That is known as theory of biogenesis. Louis Pasteur in 1859 has done an experiment in which he has used swan neck flask or S-shaped neck flask, which disproves the theory of spontaneous generation by demonstrating that life comes from pre-existing life. This is known as theory of biogenesis. The Pasteur experiment was he boiled the nutrient broth in flask with long S-shaped neck. The broth was heated to sterilize the microorganism or kill the microorganism existing in the flask. The S-shaped flask allowed air to enter the flask but trapped airborne dust and microorganisms in this curved neck. No microbial growth or cloudiness appeared in the sterile broth over the time. But when the S-shaped neck of one flask was broken off or it is tilted off, it allows the microbes to enter the broth. The broth quickly become cloudy and showed the sign of microbial growth. He finally concluded that the life does not arise in spontaneously but comes from the pre-existing life, specifically from the microbes present in the air. The S-shaped neck he used in experiment acted as a filter, preventing contamination by airborne germs, while the broken necks allowed this contamination, leading to the appearance of life. This is known as theory of biogenesis.